And welcome everybody to the April 7th, Our Voices IWWG open mic. I'm so glad to see you all here. I'm Kelly Dumar and I'm on the board of the International Women's Writing Guild and I'm the moderator of this open mic. It's bi-monthly. We meet twice a month on Thursdays, usually one Thursday a month and one Sunday evening a month. The Thursday time is usually at 2 p.m. in the afternoon Eastern. But tonight, to accommodate Amy's schedule, we moved it to the evening. And then on Sunday nights, once a month, we also have another open mic with a featured speaker. And then we have a pop-up open mic, usually once a month. And we have you all here to read for yourselves as well tonight in 3-minute segments, any genre. We ask you to just stay to 3 minutes. We do not record that part. And Katerina Konen, my colleague from the board, is going to be keeping track of the list, and she will be putting that into the chat room where you will see the list. And when it's time, I will ask you to make sure your camera is on and that you unmute. I'll call your name and you give your reading. And the other thing I want to say that many of you know, so forgive me if this is repetitive for any of you, but is that we keep our chat room open so that you can ask questions and comment and say, oh my gosh, I really love that line that you just read, or I want to learn more about your work, or here I am from so-and-so, what state, where are you from? We love to know sort of who's here from your neighborhood, who's here in our neighborhood today. And so feel free to ask questions there. Now, when I introduce Amy, and Amy does her reading, then you may find that you're curious and want to know more and have a specific question about what Amy is talking about. Put that in the chat room. I'll find it there and we'll be glad to ask your question because Amy's going to read first. Then we're going to have a discussion, a Q&A with Amy, and then we're going to go to the open mic. If you have a question for Katerina about the reading list, please feel free to direct message her in the chat. All righty, now I'm going to be introducing our wonderful feature for tonight. It's a little bit different and unique from what we have done recently in the sense that the topic, women in ag tech, is the topic tonight, from farms to incubators. And this is nonfiction, and our guest is Amy Wu. She is an award-winning writer for the women's ag and ag tech movement. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about her as we're going to be exploring women entrepreneurs in agriculture. And she's going to be reading from her very soon to be published book, From Farms to Incubators. So Amy is the creator and chief content director of From Farms to Incubators, a multimedia platform that uses documentary, video, photography, and the written word to tell the stories of the women leaders and innovators in ag tech. It has a mission of highlighting women in food, farming, and farm tech, especially women of color. From Farms to Incubators includes a documentary that was produced and released in 2017. And this book, From Farms to Incubators, will be published officially May 4th, but it's available now. And that spotlights women leaders in ag and ag tech. And the documentary and stories have been screened and presented at South by Southwest and Techonomy. The initiative was awarded grants from the International Center for Journalists and the International Women's Media Foundation's Howard G. Buffett Fund. In 2020, Amy was named on Worth Magazine's Groundbreakers 2020 list of 50 women changing the world. She was also a recipient of the Women in Agribusiness Demeter Award of Excellence. In 2019, she was named by Food Tank as one of 15 inspiring women leading in the ag tech sector. There's a lot more to say about Amy, and we are going to be learning a lot, not just about this particular book and her passion for being involved in it, but also we'll be interested to know more about the publishing process that she has gone through. And she's going to be reading From Farms to Incubators right now. I want you to think about what is the most surprising thing that you're going to learn about women in ag farming today, in ag tech. What's the most surprising thing? And please, let's give that feedback to Amy after her reading in the chat room. look for and listen for the surprises. What are you learning tonight? Things that she knows and has brought to light through this work that we had no idea. Amy, welcome.
Thank you very much, Kelly, for that wonderful introduction. I'm really honored to be here tonight, and it's great to be among writers. This is the first time and the first event I've done among fellow writers, so I'm really happy. I'm looking forward to the question and answer, and I'm looking forward to the open mic a little bit later as well, and to hearing everybody else read also. So as Kelly said, I'm a journalist by training. I've been writing letters to the editor since I was in middle school. And I actually once thought I could make a living that way. And I discovered, but there's another profession called reporting. So I spent a good 2 decades as a newspaper reporter, which is how I came upon the topic of women in AgTech. Briefly, in 2015, I was sent to Salinas, California. I'm from the East Coast originally, but I was given this opportunity from a newspaper chain called Gannett. Some of you might have heard of them. They own a lot of newspapers, local papers. And the editor said, are you interested in going to Salinas and writing about local government and ag? It's very expensive living there, but you're going to find a lot of interesting stories. I had never been there before. I just know that John Steinbeck is from there, Steinbeck country. But when I landed there, I saw that there were thousands upon thousands of acres of farmland everywhere. And it was amazing because I love to eat and I'm a real consumer, but I didn't know where the food came from. And I was just fascinated by it. And then when I started to go to meetings like ag meetings and city hall meetings, I noticed there weren't a lot of women leaders at the helm of agriculture. Anyway, so to make a long story short, that's how I came upon the topic of writing about women in profiling women in ag tech. So I want to fast forward a bit because I know that I want to get in the reading here, but so I'm going to jump into this book. It's a unique book because like Kelly said, it's nonfiction. It's also a really photocentric book. And it's an unusual book because it's actually made up of about 30 profiles of women, individual women who are creating the software, the hardware, the innovation to help growers, to help farmers. So I can go into a whole other topic on why farmers are having a hard time. And a lot of it stems from climate change. But they are finding different ways to use like blockchain, artificial intelligence, software, sensors, so that farmers can save their time and their money and grow more food for the population. So here I go. From Farms to Incubators, Women Innovators Revolutionizing How Our Food is Grown. It's a collection of visual and written portraits of nearly 30 women leaders and innovators in ag tech. The book takes an exciting look at how women innovators are revolutionizing agriculture through high tech. So the story I'm about to read is of a young woman named Jessica Gonzalez, who I first met when I was living in Salinas. She was probably about 25 years old when I met her. And she was the co-founder and chief technology officer of an ag tech startup called Heavy Connect. When I first started looking around and asking people, introduce me to a woman in ag tech, they would look at me quietly and just not say anything. So I would ask the same question because I was afraid they didn't hear me, but they heard me and I would ask it again until I finally found a handful of women to interview. And Jessica is also in the documentary. She's one of the early women that I connected with in 2016. So I'm going to read about Jessica, and I think there's a couple of things about her that I find fascinating. Just some tidbits. I'm not going to give the whole thing away. She's the youngest in a family of 10 brothers and sisters. Her parents are immigrants from Mexico. They were field workers in Salinas Valley. She's the first in her, she was the first in her, one of the first in her family really to graduate from college, and she majored in computer science. She's extremely dynamic, and I'm just going to jump right in and share a bit about Jessica with you. All right. Jessica Gonzalez. is the CEO of Happy Organics. She's from Merced, California. Happy Organics is a small batch beekeeper that provides raw honey and wellness products from some 34 beehives. The company, launched in 2018 by Jessica, makes and sells its own products, including CBD, lip and muscle balm, and CBD infused honey. The company is based in the middle of the San Joaquin Valley on Gonzalez's family farm, not far from downtown Merced. Happy Organics' mission centers on community, conservation, and wellness, as well as creating sustainable and delicious products. Happy Organics is Jessica's latest venture in AgTech. Previously, she was a founder and CTO of Heavy Connect, a Salinas-based AgTech startup. In 2017, she left Heavy Connect and returned to her hometown of Merced after her mother died from illness at age 69. Entrepreneurship appears to run in her blood. Jessica is the daughter of Mexican immigrants and the youngest of 9 children, including 3 sisters and 5 brothers. Her parents, Salvador and Angela Gonzalez, came to the US from Michoacan, Mexico, seeking a better life. The couple worked as farm workers in the Salinas Valley and took on odd jobs to make ends meet. In Salinas, Salvador started by selling fruit on street corners and expanded into wholesale. When Jessica was 4, Salvador took a gamble and moved the family to Dinuba, outside of Fresno, to expand his own company. As a teenager, Jessica was a top student, gravitating to science and math. She was a valedictorian at Golden Valley High School and received a full scholarship to attend Mills College in Oakland, California. But during college, she struggled with what she wanted to do with her life, especially after deciding the pre-med route wasn't for her. Quote, "I really had no direction. I was just trying to figure out what should I be doing and what would be best for me," she says. An older sister, Sonia, encouraged her to look at computer science. She said, "It's really marketable." This turned out to be true. Even before graduating from Mills College, Jessica received job offers from numerous San Francisco Bay Area companies. In the end, she accepted an offer from a global technology company called ThoughtWorks as a quality assurance analyst. The next section is called Discovering AgTech. It was ThoughtWorks that led Jessica to AgTech, and specifically to Heavy Connect. Jessica met Patrick Zelaya, a former employee at John Deere, who had launched Heavy Connect after she signed up for the mentorship program at ThoughtWorks. The mentoring program offered Jessica a list of university programs to select from, including this program called CS in 3. So this is a program that allows students to get a degree in computer science in 3 years from Hartnell College and Cal State Monterey Bay. Through this mentoring program, Jessica met Rivka Garcia, then a student in the CS in 3 program and an intern at Heavy Connect. In mentoring Rivka, Jessica became connected with Patrick, who at the time was a one-man band with several interns. He was also looking to expand his company. The decision to join Heavy Connect full-time was easy, Jessica says. She was enticed by the opportunity to experience working in a fledgling sector and to have a chance to develop a company from the ground up. She also liked the energy and the buzz inside the Western Growers Center for Innovation and Technology, where Heavy Connect was based at the time. They, meaning Western growers, brought a lot of different companies all together in one space, and I saw the different technologies being built. I was really excited about the possibilities, she recalls. When Patrick offered Jessica the position as co-founder and chief technology officer, she immediately said, yes. The position gave her the chance to innovate and quote unquote, have more control over what I am working on and being at a higher level of deciding what happens with a company, she recalls. Once she joined Heavy Connect at full-time in 2015, she also became aware of the realities of being a decision maker in a developing sector that was mostly male dominated. She says, initially, I was intimidated when going to the conference rooms where I am the only woman, but I think everyone is really receptive to what we are doing. So it's like they don't really see that difference, she says. Every time we go into a conference room, they listen. They say, we love this product. We need it. The next section is called Silver Linings. In 2017, Jessica left the startup and Salinas and returned to the family farm in Merced. I left after my mom passed away because I felt like I needed to find my purpose. I went back to the family business to see what I could help with and maybe help inspire a new idea, she says. Later that year, she was hit with more bad news. Soon after her mother passed away, her father was diagnosed with terminal cancer. She and her siblings helped their father with treatment, along with running the family farm. The genesis of Happy Organics started when Salvador found taking CBD helped with pain, but the oil in its raw version, which has a higher concentration of the plant material, was bitter to the taste. I thought mixing the two, CBD and honey, would kind of mask the cannabis taste and smell. And I found people who had never tried cannabis were very interested in the honey, she says. She also made other products, such as the CBD infused oil tincture, muscle balm, and massive oil and massage oil for her father. She found that the mixture helped her father immensely with his pain as he went through medical treatments. His positive responses inspired her to take these products to the market. Entrepreneurial in nature, Jessica began thinking of ways she could bring her passion for farming and technology together. At the family farm, she started beekeeping, producing raw honey, experimenting with different recipes that blended CBD with honey, and making CBD-infused tinctures with the goal of taking the products to market. Well, at times, though, she missed working in the AgTech sector. The decision to leave Heavy Connect was difficult since she loved her job, but it was a necessary one. Her parents had taught her and her siblings that family comes first. When her father became sick, she and her siblings immediately regrouped and worked together to run the farm. So turn the clock forward. In 2018, Salvador Gonzalez succumbed to cancer. For Jessica, her personal losses have brought a silver lining. I felt like I needed to find something I was really passionate about. After a parent passes, you have these life-changing moments. I thought, life is short and I need to find something to do. That's when she officially found Happy Organics with the goal of taking the products to the markets across the US. The company is based out of the 10-acre family farm, which houses the beehives and a number of flower and fruit gardens where the bees collect nectar and pollen. Happy Organics continues to gain momentum with customers as Jessica's story has been reported by the media. She is committed to making honey-based products, quote, as long as it keeps helping other people. Sales are inching up slowly with about 250 jars a month, mostly at farmers markets and online. In 2019, she launched a farm stand for a season that's now open every Sunday. She sells fresh seasonal produce, including leafy greens, zucchini, and tomatoes to the community. There's a lot of farmland on this side of town, but it's not easy to get access to what is being grown, she says. As of April 2020, Jessica was also working with Communities United for Restorative Youth Justice, a nonprofit based in Oakland, to build out its community garden. She plans to help that organization set up beehives and install a smart garden, which will help it automate and keep track of metrics for the garden. My parents also always taught us to be respectful of nature and to care for the things around us. Conservation is our biggest priority, and the quote reminds me of this. Jessica says, speaking of the John Muir quotation found at the beginning of the chapter, there's a quote at the beginning of the chapter that you'll see. Merced is home, but she also admits to having the itch to return to AgTech as a platform to develop innovation and find ways to help her community. I think agriculture is more meaningful for me. It's getting healthy food to lower income areas, and it's something that I am passionate about, she says. So that is the chapter, that's the profile on Jessica. And I want to thank Kelly for going through a lot of the photos in the chapter. And each profile has at least 6 or 7 photos. And I'd be happy to talk more about the photos as well. So thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you. You can't hear the applause, but it's
I
happening.
can hear it. Thank you.
Oh, you can. Okay, you can hear mine. And I'm promoting just a couple of people who've been in our waiting room. And thank you so much. Please put any questions or comments you have in the chat room. The first thing I think I said, I asked everybody to say what would surprise you. I guess I'd not thought about CBD in honey, and that product just surprised me, and yet it makes a lot of sense. So for the purposes, it sounds like that's one of her primary products. So does she grow the marijuana and she keeps the bees?
She keeps the bees, and I don't believe at the time she was not growing the marijuana.
Okay.
It was being like outsourced. It might have changed since then, but she's still very much focused on that business. But she has a lot of beehives, I can tell you.
Yeah, those are great. Great pictures, seeing the beehives.
Brave to be the beehives, actually.
Great title too. Great name for her business. Happy Organics. Love that. And so one question I have is, I wondered if I have not thought about what AgTech means. And it seems really obvious, but in the book, one of the things you explain is, well, what is AgTech? Could you just talk about that for a minute for our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely, Kelly. So AgTech is agriculture plus technology. And of course, agriculture has always used technology. We've had tractors and different farm equipment, and that's all being really advanced. I recently sat on a tractor that's like run by GPS, and I think it almost runs itself. But AgTech is a little bit different in the sense that it is the new kinds of what we would call new kinds of technology, like blockchain, artificial intelligence, drone sensors that are being adopted by farmers to help them specifically to increase production and to save money, because that's a whole other story. But there's fewer and fewer farms that are able to be sustained in this country, because the next generation, I mean, it's a very costly, it's expensive to be a farmer, basically, and it's very hard work. It's labor intensive, and there is a labor shortage. And on the other hand, there's also fewer younger people who for different reasons want to take that on. There's also less farmable land because the soil is being depleted. Some of that comes definitely from climate change as well. And the seasons, because of climate change, the whole crop plans are being changed for a lot of farmers also. So that's the summary of why AgTech is a solution to really help the farmers. And what's interesting is that there's these women now that are launching companies to help the farmers. I mean, agriculture is still like, it's still pretty male dominated actually in general. Like even with big agribusiness companies, I can only think of I keep thinking Beth Ford from Land O'Lakes might be the only female CEO that I can really think of at that level. Actually.
And Mary is asking, I think it was Mary was asking, when did AgTech begin? If you could even sort of define that.
AgTech as a sector unofficially started probably around 2013 and 2014, when a lot of the big agribusiness companies, there were some mergers like with Monsanto and so forth, and venture capital companies and investors started to see this opportunity to actually invest in this area. So they started to actually create real AgTech investment sectors. So there's a whole other aspect of this in funding and investment that's now specifically ag tech, I would say. So it's still honestly a word that a lot of people are like, I don't know what ag tech is really. And it's not unusual that folks are like, I don't get it really. Yeah, because it's still growing. It's still like little kind of, and now it's becoming bigger and bigger.
Peter asked, do we know if Biden's infrastructure bill has anything related to ag tech?
Hi, Peter. Let's see. I have to, seriously, I have to look more into that a little bit. Yeah, I have not been following that very, very closely, but that's a good question, and I'll be looking that one up.
Okay, it's a brand new infrastructure plan, so I certainly haven't learned that much about it either. So let's see. There was a question. Is ag tech mainly or only in Salinas, or anything here on the East Coast or other areas of the USA?
Oh, good question. It's everywhere, really. The reason why I had focused primarily in the beginning, certainly, the book doesn't just include California women. There are women in there's women in Brazil. There's a woman in Australia, and also in the Midwest, which is huge in agriculture, actually. So no, it's actually everywhere. I would say mostly in the ag-centric regions. So Midwest is huge. I would say overseas, there's a lot of growth in using ag tech in the farming community. Yeah.
Thank you.
Amy, there are lots of writers on the call, lots of creative people, authors, people who've developed creative projects from start to finish. Well, we all know that it usually takes really strong passion to drive us through all the obstacles and challenges and difficulties of bringing a creative project to fruition. So I wonder if you would talk a little bit about what was that for you that sort of has driven you through to the completion, or sort of the launch of the book?
Yeah, so this is why I'm so happy to be in this community among creative folks and writers today, because it was pure passion. And also I love writing. I really love writing. And I keep a journal. I always am writing different notes. I have a problem. I buy a lot of notebooks. So it was a real passion to continue with this, because the more that I was listening to the stories from the women, the more I was like, people would eventually, like, the more I would unearth, there would be another name. Somebody would call me up and be like, did you talk to this woman? Like, she's doing this. And I was almost like, well, I finished my film. I finished my stories. Like, what should I do with this? So this is what inspired the book. I was like, there's all these stories, and I didn't want to just tell them, well, okay, your story it's over. The film is over and you'll have to find somebody else. So as I heard their stories and their personal stories too about what drove them, I was like, they have a voice. These people have a voice. I mean, it's a nonfiction. I'm a nonfiction writer. I've never tried fiction, but they had a voice and they had a story. And I was like, I felt like it had to be told. So I was just like, I've never written a book before, by the way. This is my first book. And I've done journalism for a long time though. And certainly the film was also my first. But I thought of the book format because I was like, where else can I collect their stories and also do justice to their stories by putting in by photographs? I thought it was a really good mix to mix the photos with their story. And so I was like, I want to tell your story and I'm going to collect them. And I realized that there's more women, but at least this is a snapshot. So there were more than 30 stories. And so what drove me was really a passion to give voice to like a new area. I mean, this was not being covered in a lot of the publications. So when I was shopping around a little bit for a publisher, a lot of the publishers would just be like, some of them would be like, oh, I haven't heard of AgTech. Like, this is great that like women are doing this. But I don't know if there's a market for anybody to read this. Like, we're not a farming publisher, and I was like, this isn't just a farming book. Like, this is me like thinking to myself, this is not just a farming book. It's actually a broader readership. stories about women who are really inspirational and doing something different, and and also trying to help other people. They have their own challenges, and I thought even, you know, people who are trying something new would like to read it, because they'd be like, I'm trying something new, and I'm going to face ups and downs, and this is what I'm. So it was really interesting that I ended up finding a small publisher who, in this process, I didn't actually even go for, and stop me if I'm going too in deep into the whole process, but I didn't even
How to
go.
find a publisher,
Yeah.
and you know, for nonfiction is certainly a question. I know a lot of our writers were, and you didn't have an agent, right? I mean, you didn't,
No,
and you didn't even
no,
attempt to get an agent. But it
I
sounds
didn't
to me
attempt
like
to
you
get an
approached it
agent.
very much as an entrepreneur yourself. I mean, in a way, you know.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way, but I was like really wanting to get the story out, actually, and I was thinking, I'm collecting these stories. I really want to find a way. And initially I was thinking, okay, should I just like publish it myself, and just like I was, you know, going to go that route as well. But I emailed, I corresponded with a small publisher in California. And it was just a bit of serendipity, actually. I don't know if this ever actually really, it's not in any article, it's not in how you do things, but I was at like an event in California where it was a bit like, you know, a mission day. And I was like at one of the missions, and there was like this a bunch of exhibitors. And this woman had some beautiful hardcover books about the history of California, and they were so beautifully illustrated. And I just started to chat with her, and I was like, your books are really beautiful, and they're so colorful. And like, she was very chit-chatty. And then I was like, like, oh, what publisher is this? So I remember the publisher's name. And then I looked at the publisher, and I actually emailed them, and I corresponded with the publisher, and they told me that they really thought that this was a very unique idea. Like, I sent them some samples of the profiles that I had written, and some of them had already been published in the newspaper. And he told me that, I think that it's a fascinating topic, but we don't usually publish books about this at all. We do woodworking and we do the history of California. And I said, well, it is California. I said, someday it'll be history too. So I was really trying to like sell
So
him.
this is truly an entrepreneur driven. It's
But I
like,
hadn't thought
you
of
know
it
how
that
to
way.
sell, don't
In
you?
retrospect, it really was, you know, a very entrepreneurial. So we got on a phone call, and I said to him, listen, I really believe that these stories are gonna, you know, like people are gonna want to read them, and I have them. And he just said, well, we don't usually invest in something like this. I mean, and then I thought, like, he goes, occasionally, every so often, very, very rarely, we will pick a project where it's a partnership and it's a collaboration. And I just said, you know, and then we talked about it. And the bottom line is it was a collaboration where we agreed to partner up, in the sense that they published the book and they're marketing and distributing it. And it's under Linden Publishing, and they're distributing it. But I raised the money for the editorial.
This, yeah, I mean, these are new models of publishing are definitely out there. And so that's like another whole story, how you went about raising. So
Yeah,
you're a
that's a whole other
fundraiser,
story.
you're an entrepreneur, a woman thought leader. You have this passionate project that you're really wanting to fulfill, because the stories, it sounds like, move you so deeply. These women entrepreneurs who are trying to really break into a field that it sounds like it's been really dominated hugely by men. And
Yeah. Yes, but I would also say that I had a good intuition about this publisher. I certainly would not have gone the route if I didn't have some really good conversations with him. They are very much committed, I think, to telling the stories of California as well. And there were numerous people on the staff that actually worked in farming. They're based out of Fresno. So I felt it was just intuition, but I wouldn't say, I don't have a name for this model. I just thought that, okay, I just go with it. No.
Wonderful. I have put your links also to the book, where people can get a 25% discount if they buy it at the link that I put in here. This one that I put in, that you put in, and then I copied. I just want to put that in one more time to make sure it's clear which link they should go to get the 25% discount. But then I'm putting it in again right now, everybody. And also put in the information about the movie, where they could see the book trailer and the trailer to the film. And how would people see the movie if they wanted to, Amy?
They can
Is it
see,
distributed in some way or available to watch somewhere?
they can see the movie. There's a couple of ways. Number one is, if you want to email me, I can directly now send you. It's played at a few film festivals in 2020, and now it's including the United Nations Film Festival. So now it is available. You can email me and I'm happy to share the link. Or I recently made it live on the Farms to Incubators website. So now you can also see it on the website.
Okay, so will you do me a favor and put those two links? I didn't do it yet. I don't think I put in your Farms to Incubators website in the chat room. So maybe you want to put your contact information if you're willing to share your email, and then that Farms to Incubators, and then if people want to contact you, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that would be absolutely. I love that. So I'm going to put my email address in the chat box as well.
And we will end by quoting Anita Jepson Gilbert, who says, "Bravo, Amy. I think we have to be very innovative in our pursuit to getting published these days." So, and I see people asking they'd love to link. Oh, Katarina is saying, "I'd love to link to the movie. A lot of my students are going into AgTech." Wow. Okay, we're another surprise. So that's wonderful. Okay, Amy, thank you so much. If you wouldn't mind hanging around.
I would love to.
And we're going to switch over to our open mic, and I'm going to actually take the recording off.